Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy, technology, principles, applications, and more. This video is about magnetic energy and fire. So, entropy. Why is entropy a completely false concept in the magnetic energy model? And once that's proven, it will be a disregarded concept, hopefully, along with the laws of thermodynamics. So those principles assume a closed system, and that is not what we live in. Those principles assume that the etheric energy is not real, and as we all know, it is real. As we all know. Well, it will be proven soon enough to come. So, randomness does not equal chaos. That just sums up this video, and it sums up a lot of this stuff. Let a physicist take that to heart and take that for real to be the truth, and it opens up a whole new universe. Randomness does not equal chaos. So the etheric flow and the magnetic energy flow are random in nature. By nature, they are random flows of energy, and that's partly what I think makes them kind of difficult to identify and to capture. And even in the magnetic energy unit circuitry, all of those units are designed to capture a random flow of energy. Here's the thing. The etheric energy that comes in and out of our existence at all times at an incredibly high rate is 100% efficient at all times. The problem has never been redistribution. And redistribution is essentially energy that's going back into the etheric flow. The problem in our current society is how the redistribution is taking place. So when we have manipulated elements, such as radioactive elements, or we have manipulated chemicals or any type of product that is like synthetic, something that doesn't have a natural equivalent, nature essentially hasn't made that element, and there's no higher template matching for that element or for that product or for that whatever it is, that synthetic material, that disrupts the redistribution process. As the efficiency drops in the redistribution process, there's a pressure build that happens where in nature, it happens in the system, it happens in the etheric flow. There's a pressure build because things aren't being properly redistributed. That pressure build leads to a lot of things like earth changes, video to come, severe weather, changes, pole shifts, all kinds of crazy things. It drops the efficiency in the system, and that is a terrible thing for all of us ultimately, and for life on this planet and for other planets. So redistribution is absolutely 100% critical. Now, here's the thing. Go into quarks, go into muons, go into wherever you want, but think about the smallest things that we've identified so far, that conventional science has identified so far. And go a million times deeper than that, go into core structures and magnetic resonances that are inherent in all of those things, including electrons, okay? Everything has a core structure, no matter how small you get, and it is encoded. It not only is it encoded with an incredibly complex set of polarities that varies constantly, but it is encoded with a level of consciousness, if you will, if you want to call it that, or a level of intelligence, if you will, that is so high that it's hard for us to even conceive of it or imagine it from a incarnated point of view. So that encoding is why entropy is false. Okay? The universe is not going to heat up and degrade into pure chaos. Why is it not going to? Because it's not encoded to do that. And the energy coming in from the etheric realm to our physical existence and then going back is all highly encoded with polarities that are driven by an attract principle. Okay? So I'm going to get to fire, I promise. This is all building up to fire. Here we go. So because that is encoded and because it's all based on an attract process, you can create technology that engages in that etheric flow if you do it properly. So if you use magnetic pulse resonance, if you use something that's relatively neutral in its polarity, it automatically gets attracted back into the etheric flow. Okay, this is really huge. This is an important concept because part of the reason why there's so much resistance with electromagnetic processes, electromagnetic waves and EMFs and electricity is because it's not conducive to the etheric flow. Electricity creates a resistance in what people have labeled as the dimensional membrane. What's actually really happening in there is there's no compatible pulse rate for that because the magnetic pulsing is distorted. The subatomic, subatomic components and the encoding is altered and changed. And so there's no equivalent etheric encoding for it to attract to. Okay? So when you work in the magnetic world, in what we in this model, which is relatively mostly neutral with encoding involved, the magnetic resonance encoding, the etheric realm, if you will, attracts that energy with incredible power. So fire, from a magnetic model point of view, is not only is it a redistribution process, it's an accelerated redistribution process for sure. And I mean, even from a conventional point of view, it's a combustive process, and that's fine. But what it is it's an accentuated flow of etheric energy, inflow and outflow of etheric energy. It's accentuated. And when you think about that, think about like magic, meditation, all these practices that use fire around them through just regular candles. And as people meditate, they get this feeling like that there's more to that fire than just simply this little flame. There's energy to it. It almost feels like a presence. And it enhances magical practices. It enhances a lot of practices, actually, all the way up to alchemical practices, especially when you get into molten metals. Anytime there's high heat like that, but don't misunderstand me, heat is not required in magnetic energy, and we'll talk about cold plasma later. But when there is a natural occurring heat and a redistribution of some sort of element or something that's requiring like a flame or molten metal, there's an accelerated exchange of etheric energy. So right now in the United States, we're in what a lot of people label as fire season because there are multiple fires burning around our country, especially in the Southwest. And so from a magnetic energy point of view, how would you deal with fire? How would you handle fire? How would you put fire out or control it? Well, I mean, obviously one of the easiest things you could do is you could simply just make it rain. You could use magnetic energy technology to create rain, and that would put out the fire. But in some cases, you don't necessarily want to flood out a fire because it could create unnecessary landslides or damage to, properties that are nearby. You could also influence the oxygen in the area. With magnetic technology, you could actually remove the oxygen in the area temporarily while the fire goes out. But again, that may impact some of the wildlife or things that you don't necessarily want to impact in that area. So even manipulating the oxygen might not be the preferred route depending on the location. Now, of course, you can, this is funny, you can actually use magnetic technology combined with human abilities and let humans literally use their abilities enhanced with magnetic technology to put the fire out. But let's just forget about that for a second, because what I want to talk about is relating this to entropy and specifically the second law of thermodynamics. But So you can take a magnetic pulse signature, magnetic pulse rate, and emit a magnetic pulse field that targets what's being combusted. And so that might be like in the forest, that might be, and there's a range. So there'll be a range of magnetic pulse resonances that are being combusted at that moment. You know, trees and plants and shrubbery or whatever, what have you. So as you target the actual molecular structures that are being combusted, you can do one of a couple of things. You can not only accelerate that combustion, or what we would call accelerating that redistribution to such a high rate that it literally snuffs out the fire, so that anything that's combusting literally goes through its cycle immediately and the fire is gone. That's one way you could do it. The other way, and that would be a relatively neutral pulsing magnetic field that targets the resonances of that particular fire, whatever it is, that range of resonances. So the other thing that you can do is you can actually target what's currently combusting and make those molecular bonds essentially impervious to that level of heat, to that level of fire. And that snuffs out the fire from that way. Now, when you do that, that would be either a temporary fix, like so you would only do that field until the fire is out and then cancel that field out, because you don't necessarily want to turn that part of their wood into something so hard or something that's so resistant that it impacts the future growth of those trees. So you would do it just long enough to put the fire out and then put that resonance, put those molecular structures back to normal on those trees so that they can continue to grow and flourish. So it's a matter of what is really happening with molecular structures and etheric energy and etheric flow. Look at fire as a process of etheric conversion and then etheric redistribution of energy. And when you engage in it from that perspective, and then you recognize that the energy coming in is random, and that you recognize when we are trying to work with that energy, we have to work with magnetic, relatively neutral pulses, because that's what the etheric field responds to. Then when we create those fields, the etheric realm will eat those up. It wants to attract those fields. It wants to engage in those fields. So like a magnetic resonance pulse field designed to make combustion super accelerated. And so whatever's in the process of current combustion finishes its redistribution instantly. And we're doing that with magnetic, relatively neutral magnetic pulse rates that the etheric realm, essentially, the etheric field, is attracted to. And that process works flawlessly. So you've got to think in terms of when we're creating energy out of magnetic energy, when we're creating usable magnetic energy for society, whether it's for healing or power or transportation or communication, we always have to be thinking, how are we creating something that the etheric realm, that the etheric energy will attract? The etheric is random. It's mostly neutral. It's mostly magnetic. That's what we want to work with. Then whatever reaction we're creating, whatever fields and pulsing fields we're creating, they're instantly attracted back into the stream. That way we are 100% compatible with the natural flow and the natural process of this planet and the universe, and that way we don't create imbalances in the system. We maintain that 100% efficiency. The universe is designed to run forever. Entropy is a complete lie, along with many other of the lies of physics, but we can get into that in some other video. Oh, I think I already did. So, with that said, let that kind of hopefully give you some idea of how to work with that energy, how to work with that etheric energy, and how things like fire will absolutely, forest fires, if they need to be controlled, will absolutely vanish from this planet when magnetic energy comes online and we get through this accelerated enlightenment process. And with that, I will see you later.